Welcome to our Michael Herr video entitled Lost Society. In this video I will be addressing certain concerns and questions regarding these certain things that have been going on as of late. Reflections on this whole thing known as the YouTube purge, this whole thing on slander, and this whole thing on pretty much what Christians are going through, the real Christians are going through in this day and age. You know, it's interesting. You write over 14 books. You put all your sources and information in those books. You pretty much tell people where you get information from. You pretty much let them know how you acquire said information. You hide none of that. And when you show forth that particular understanding, an understanding that covers the 5 W's, an understanding that falls into real journalism, things of this sort, people still want to question you. People still want to hit you with, an argument. It seems like people are really good at arguing. They're not good at being married. They're not good at being friends to each other. They're not good at relationships. And they're not even good at respecting their own Bill of Rights and respecting their providences and their culture. Instead, they're just good at arguing. Isn't that interesting? Since Shield of the Sun was forced down, and since that particular happenstance has occurred, where you can learn more about in the Leon Cruz interview, I've seen a lot of videos suddenly done about me. It's interesting, more videos were done about me when my channel was forced down than ever before. When my channel was up, there wasn't that many videos about me. There was probably a couple channels, I think, that ran a series of videos on me which were lame and stupid, and no one believed it, and they thought they were just completely trolls for doing it. And it's funny because even some of them decided to take their videos down, which is kind of interesting. But either way, what I found so amazing about that was, as soon as my channel comes down, and them not even realizing what really happened. They never spoke to me. They never reached out to me. They never contacted me. Never did anything like that. Was as soon as they can put up their nasty videos about me and talk smack, which I found to be very interesting. Now, first off, not all the videos were like that. There were actually more videos giving me shout-outs, meaning positive comments to me, which, you know who you are. So I just want to really thank you for that. I actually saw those videos. I saw the positive ones and the negative ones. I saw both of them. Because I don't shield myself from what you want to call criticism. It's funny because what I saw in the negative ones had nothing to do with constructive criticism. In fact, I don't think you guys know what those words mean. Constructive criticism. I don't think you know what those words mean. What I saw was some crazy, lame accusations, is what I saw. For the positive ones, I actually really liked what I heard because it was just simply them reflecting on what the videos meant to them, what the channel meant to them, and what I did for them in their lives. And that's really a blessing that only comes from God. And I really credit that as God doing that for you. He just used a sinner like myself to help you to understand who God is, because that's what God does. God transforms sinners. He turns them into instruments of his uses. And that's what God is all about. So with that being said, there are a lot of things that I had to listen to, which just amazes me. Like, one video I remember watching was this guy was suggesting that I'm a clone. Seriously, no joke. He actually thinks I'm a clone and that I was some kind of demonic reproduction. Of course, somebody asked him, well, if that's true, why does he do Bible videos? Why is he teaching people the Word of God if he's supposed to be a demon clone? Of course, he had no answer for that. He just pretty much figured that just makes him even more scarier. So apparently, because I'll do certain things with my face or something, I'll blink my eyes or something like that, he thinks that I'm a clone. I found that really funny. His whole theory is that the real Michael Herr died years ago, and that I then was replaced with me. So I guess I came out of a test tube, according to him, and I was spawned on this earth to do biblical videos and suffer financial losses and to be completely ostracized from the profession that I was supposed to enter. Okay. So that was crazy. I had other videos where they were basically guessing or coming up with an explanation for what really happened. One guy said that I was against free speech because I disable my comments. And I was going, gee, it's funny because everyone knew that the comments got disabled when YouTube and Google were implemented in hiring thousands of people. And these certain channels, mostly Christian and conservative channels, they were actually put on a list. A list, by the way. And this list was given over to these team of trolls, who many of them actually living in their own homes. They were paid. Listen to me very carefully. They were paid to go on people's channels and spread division by talking about the person and the persons who support the channel on the comment section. Okay, well, freedom of speech does not protect activity like that. Activity like that is known as subversion. It's known as slander. And that actually is against the law. And it actually works against freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is the ability to have an opinion without someone paying you for that opinion. Freedom of speech is when you honestly, by your convictions, believe in whatever opinion you have. Now, if your opinion is to be against what I have to say, then that's fine. But when you're being paid to be against me, that's not freedom of speech, by the way. That's communism, by the way. That's dictatorship, by the way. That's a form of tyranny. You see, that's the equivalent of, let's say if I'm Google and I don't like what you have to say. So I go to a bunch of people and I tell them, what do you think of this guy? Some of them may not like the guy for what he has to say, but of course not liking someone that you've never met or even knew is rather very strange, but they're entitled to that. And maybe the other half does like the guy and does like what he has to say, even though they never met him. And they're totally entitled to that. So that's freedom of speech. To decide if you like him, you don't like him or her, it's up to you. But instead, I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to whip out of my pocket $20,000 and I'm going to put it on a table. And there's probably about 10 people there. So I'm going to divide up $10,000 with 10 people, meaning each of them are going to get over $1,000. Okay? But here's what I'm going to tell them. I don't care if you like them or you don't like them. What I need you to do is pretend that you all don't like him. And then also, I need you to attack his friends. I need you to attack his channel so we can create a perception about him so that we can keep him in a certain box. Well, that's called oppression. That's not called freedom of speech. And that's why the comment section was disabled. See, there's a lot of people that want to put good, positive comments on my comment section. But they get attacked by people who are paid to attack them. Paid. And if you don't think that's a reality, if you don't think that's what's going on, that's because you haven't done enough research to find that reality out. We got this thing called a YouTube purge. And this came after they were paying all these trolls because these trolls weren't getting the job done. The more they trolled, the more they were brushed out. The more they were kicked out. The more they were forced out. So what did they have to do? Well, after they lost an election, which they haven't gotten over yet, they decided to attack us. Because apparently, instead of blaming themselves, they went on blaming Russians. And when that couldn't get over, they went on blaming gun owners. And when that couldn't get over, they just decided to blame us. So it's right back to arguments, fighting, and all of that negativity. Negative, 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 negative. Instead of just allowing somebody to maintain their own opinion, their own faith, their own choices, you want to dictate those choices and play like you know somebody. So first off, you say I'm against freedom of speech when I had a lawsuit dropped on me, had all kinds of horrible things going on at my home because I defended free speech, because I was for it. Way for it, by the way. And I was for gun rights. And I was for exposing all stratas of corrupt institutions. I said things on those videos none of you would dare to say. I said things on those videos that people within controlled opposition, you know who you are, Bill Hicks and the rest of you. You know exactly who you are. None of you would dare say it. Because you like your money. You like being gatekeepers. So because you like being gatekeepers and you like the little comfortable position that you're in, none of you people, none of you gatekeepers, and you know who you are. You're the fake, fraudulent people who want to stand up for people who've been victimized by what you want to call UFOs. You just recently wanted to call it a demonic phenomenon. Wonder who gave you that idea, by the way. Couldn't have been people like us. It was people like us. But you never acknowledged us because you used your gatekeeping position to make it look like it was all about you. And let's talk about these people who suddenly care about you with all the politics spewing out of their ears. Who have they ever stood up for? Who have they ever spoken for? What have they ever exposed that really helped somebody to be edified? Rather than giving somebody a lot of more arguments and a lot more confusion and a lot more paranoia to dwell upon. Not many people can do this particular subject intelligently and give you facts and understanding in a way that can reflect and add to your edification. Not many people can. I was one of the rare people who can. This channel was, or Shield of the Sun, that channel, it was hardly not supported. Out of thousands of people, it was probably financially supported by maybe 12 or 14 people. Now, I don't want to gripe on that, but I do find that to be very terrible. Now, for those 14, 12 people who were supporting it, God bless you. And because that was amazing, that you were doing something and getting the point of why it was so important to do that. Because the truth is, without you, it would have been even harder. And believe me, you didn't waste your time. I'm still here, by the way. Still helping, and I still need your help. But the thousands of others sat back and either benefited from my channel, or they just had something to talk garbage about regarding that channel, and decided to do absolutely nothing but watch the fray come down on our heads. And they got a big laugh out of it. Or they offered me prayers and said, "Oh, we'll pray for you, brother." Your prayers don't mean anything unless you're actually helping. Let me say that again. Your prayers don't mean anything unless you are actually helping. See, this is in the book of James. Read it, by the way. Your actions have to be in line with your faith. Everybody can bust out with prayers, but if you don't have a will to follow through with that conviction, then your actions are saying the total opposite of your prayers. And your prayers don't mean anything at that point. So I needed real help, and I kept saying that over and over and over again. But apparently that didn't really fall on people's ears, so when things came down to me, when it hit the fan, so to speak, I was left with the baggage. And not just me, but my family as well. They were left with an even heavier baggage. And now, that particular faction within it can say all kinds of bad things about me because of all of this crap that has occurred. People never actually got to know who I was. And I'm pretty sure that's probably hard considering we're on this internet thing. But you see, I did have this thing called Facebook. I did have this thing called Gmail. And you could have just done that. But you didn't. Instead, what you wanted to do was argue and fight. Argue and fight. Argue and fight. And this is to those to whom it is concerned. If this ain't you, don't worry about it. Okay? If you weren't one of those argumentative, combative people who felt like you had to get on the internet to attack somebody who does a channel like mine, which should be actually on television and should be more respected, rather than the garbage that you see. I mean, come on. You get the channels that you get. You had the videos that you did, that you had on Shield of the Sun compared to CNN, compared to MSNBC, compared to InfoWars, compared to Mark Dice. Think about it for a second. Think about what's being removed and who's replacing us. And think about how much you're going to learn now. You're going to go right back to arguing. You're going to go right back to fighting. Right back to left or right. Right back to feminism or machismo. Right back to bullcrap. Right back to distractions. Right back to disinformation. Right back to your own mud pit. We're living in a country that believes in suppression of information. And they're using all of this news fodder as a way to keep you distracted. You guys want to play the tomato game, apples and oranges. You know, that's just stupid. You see, there's this thing called when nations fall. One of the signs before their coming fall is when their population becomes so morally degenerated that they actually believe the lies that their mind conceives of. A population consumed in idolatry. A population consumed in sexual wants and sexual lusts. Population too comfortable at home. Too comfortable in their little bubbles. Too comfortable in their fantasy worlds and their fantasy trips. Thinking somehow, some way, they're going to just live vicariously through their own hypocrisy. Narrate whatever kind of story they want to narrate and dictate to you how things should go. These folks offer you nothing but division, negativity. Many, many times I've given good advice. Many, many times I've given good direction. But no one wanted to listen to it. They had their own perception, their own advice, and their own way of doing things. And when that was implemented, guess what happens? They lose good people, they go into debt, and they have even more problems, and never realize the fact that there was someone giving them good advice the whole time, but you didn't listen to that. Instead, your advices were implemented, and look at what happens. See, that's YouTube. See, that's Google. You see, that's your government. That's even your family members, by the way. You see, they don't want to listen to people like us because they're still stuck in the measuring stick. They're still stuck in the worldly way of thinking. It amazes me. It utterly amazes me that they would actually call on the name of Jesus when if they actually had to walk with Jesus at that point, he would not have measured up to them. Jesus didn't own a home. Jesus was homeless. Jesus didn't have those kind of clothes. He was not a Roman citizen. He was not of Roman standing. He wasn't even a merchant standing. He wasn't acknowledged by any political group. He wasn't acknowledged by any of what was called polite, educated society of that time frame. The truth is, the type of people we have in this world, if they would go back in time and meet Jesus, they'd all be spitting on Jesus. They'd be laughing at Jesus, trolling Jesus, and if Jesus came now, meaning let's say his first coming happened now, you want to know what'll happen? They'd remove him off of the internet. They'd give him copyright strikes, and they tell him to go sit in the corner and shut up because the government's talking. And if you don't think so, why don't you research history and find out who killed Jesus? Who was yelling, crucify him, and who was stupid enough to actually do it? The government. But let's talk about the people yelling, crucify him. Who was that, by the way? Oh yeah, that's his fellow Israelites. Those were his people, his peeps yelling, crucify him. You see, last week they were hailing him as the Messiah, the return of the King. And they were all praising him and throwing palm trees down and saying, here he comes. He's coming, our King. But this week it's crucify him. He ain't nothing. He ain't nothing. Isn't that interesting? All the crap these people wanted to talk about when Jesus was arrested. They suddenly wanted to really tear into him when he was arrested, when he was being brutalized. Pretty much Roman cops shredding his flesh all along the Praetorium. And these people think somehow, some way, they're different now. You're not. Not in any way, shape, and form. You play apples and oranges. You play reverse psychology. You want to blame us for your own problems and make us responsible for the way you feel. That's absolutely unbelievable to me. That we would be forced from our positions so you can go back to being argumentative and stupid all over again. And you know who I'm talking to, by the way. Here we have a new channel called the Michael Herr channel. You're not going to see a whole lot of videos because you don't see a whole lot of support for it. I have to now redirect my time to doing other things like recovering from the damage that resulted in my home from doing a channel with thousands of people who could have been easily helping it. But you wanted to be indifferent and argue about if I'm a clone, if I'm this, if I'm that, if I'm a Russian, if I'm this, if I'm that, and not even talk to me or reach out a real conversation to me to find out who I actually am and what my qualifications actually are. You never wanted to know that part. Probably because you wouldn't like the answer. Or probably because you're a coward hiding behind a keyboard where you could spread your little fingers across that little dashboard to find out nothing but to spread more division. So understand, this is a lost society. This is a society that would rather poke each other because they have no one else to poke. A government that ravaged the world, only left to ravage themselves. I don't believe in right or left. I believe in no politicians no more. I believe in no gatekeepers no more. If someone wants to give me a chance, that'd be great. If you don't, you don't. But it's very clear. You costed others, and there is this thing called measure for measure. I believe you guys call it karma. Don't think it's not going to visit, because it is. That's not a threat. You already know. You already know. You know it from your own life experiences. So keep playing with the keyboard. Keep acting like you know me. And keep on with your little games. And keep making sure that nobody helps me. Because there's going to come a point when no one's going to help you. This has been our Shield of the Sun video. Well, formerly Shield of the Sun, I should say. This is our Michael Herr video now. If you would like to support Michael Herr and this ministry, please do so. But if you don't want to support it, and you just think that giving me anything is a waste of time, then understand that you are allowing liars to take my place. And they don't care about you. They will never cover the subjects I'm covering, not in the way that I do it. They will just simply give you fodder and then give you confusing remarks, and then you can be back at each other's throats. They will never, ever acknowledge all the parameters of the truth of this American society and the societies around the world and what we can all mean to each other as a cultural group of people that Americans are. But I don't think you guys out there in the majority are even thinking about that. I think you want racism. I think you want sexism and all this other crap that you keep having. Because for some reason, that gets more money and attention than an honest Christian ministry trying to debunk that kind of spell. The choice is yours. You can send me anything at migueljimenez at P.O. Box 39204, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28278. You can also purchase my books at www.lulu.com. If you really want this to work, you have to make it work. If you don't care and you want to sit on your thumb, that's up to you too. It's your right to do so. But you'll produce nothing but the same thing. The slavery we have going on today is known as mental slavery. And so far, that's been doing a real good job at acquiring your resource and attention rather than the people trying to set you free.